There's YouTube. All right. Make sure things are working the way they should be. Maybe. There's YouTube. All right. Wonderful. No, I want you to keep going. I want you to be quiet, though. There we go. All right. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Hope that you are doing well today. Let's see if we're getting our promised blistering weather this week here. All right. Come on. It is currently 40 degrees in the great metropolis of Brandon, Iowa. Feels like 38, 34 if you're in the shade, but that is above freezing. So, hey, air quality is poor. Today's high is 43. 43. Tonight's low is 34. Tomorrow the high is not quite as impressive, 38, but hey, compared to what we've had the past couple weeks, we will take it. See what's happening over here. All right. Continues to get a little bit cooler on Thursday, mostly sunny, high of 36. Then bumps up a little bit, high of 40 on Friday with some sun and clouds. High of 41 on Saturday, high of 40 on Sunday. Gets a little bit cooler the next week, high of 31 on Monday, high of 36 on Tuesday. High of 37 next Wednesday, or 36 next Wednesday, 37 next Thursday. And then high of 38 and 39. Again, I don't put too much faith in predictions for weather that is beyond the week. So, what can we do? No, do not adjust the color. Okay, well, I will take those warm temperatures. All right. We are going to continue our devotional from the Journey to the Cross version of 24 Hours That Changed the World. And this is day 6. I go to prepare a place for you. And this is from John 14, 1 through 3. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. In the last 20 years as a pastor, I have sat with many people as they approached their own deaths. At home, in the hospital, in nursing homes, at the local hospice house. I remember sitting with one such man on his back porch on a beautiful fall day. He was a man my age, nearing the end of his battle with ALS, often referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. We spoke about his young boys and how he had recorded video messages for them to watch when they grew up. He described what he had wanted for his funeral, and we discussed what Christians believe about the afterlife. Then we prayed, entrusting his life to God's care. In the evening of the Last Supper, Jesus spoke with his disciples as a man preparing for his own death. He had much to say. The future of his mission would rest in their hands, and he sought to prepare them for what lay ahead. They would see his death and would face hardship and persecution of their own. John gives us the most complete account of what Jesus said that night. He devoted 5 of his Gospels' 21 chapters to what Jesus said and did on that occasion. John's account of Jesus' words at the Last Supper includes some of the most loved of all gospel passages. Here, Jesus promised that he would not leave the disciples alone, but would send them the Percolator, Comforter or Counselor. That is, the Holy Spirit. He called them to abide in him as a branch abides in a vine and draws sustenance from it. He commanded them to love one another. Undoubtedly, the beloved of his words that night are found in John 14. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you to go and prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again, and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. I have read these words many times to people who faced death, and the words have brought comfort. When speaking of trusting Christ, I tell the story of my children who, when they were small, would climb 3 or 4 steps up the stairwell in our house and shout to me, "Daddy, Daddy, come play flying squirrel." I would then stand at the bottom of the stairwell, and they would throw themselves off the steps head first into my arms, squealing and giggling and shouting for joy. The floor was ceramic tile, and had they fallen, they would have been hurt, but they were never afraid because they knew their daddy was strong enough to catch them, and he loved them so much he would not let them fall. Many times I have told those who are dying that this is what trust looks like. I have invited them to close their eyes and imagine resting in God's arms, trusting that he is strong enough to protect them, and that he loves them so much he would never let them go. Jesus promised, as he was preparing for his own death, that he would prepare a place for us, that we might one day be with him. I don't care how much trust I have in my parents. If I tried jumping into their arms from the stairs over ceramic tile, I would get a stern talking to. Sometimes, in the midst of our fears, it becomes very difficult to trust. In the midst of our upheavals in life, the first thing we do is we start losing trust in things. When bad things happen, we tend to kind of notice that a lot more than any of the good things, and that kind of skews our worldview. And so when we are being faced with our own mortality, or have been injured or hurt in some way, we will notice all the bad things much easier than we will be able to look back on any of the good. And that mentality can put us into a place where we no longer trust. And when we no longer trust, we start turning our backs on people, turning our backs on friends, on family, and then we can find ourselves feeling very, very alone. I'm not sure why we are made this way. I'm not sure why that's our instinct. I'm sure psychologists and evolutionary scientists could explain, but I am neither of those. I do know, though, that we do have that tendency to retreat inwards, that we just want to kind of lock off the world. And sometimes what is actually better for us is the exact opposite. During our times of strife and struggle, these are the moments when we need to be able to understand how we can rely on people. During moments when life is throwing us storm after storm after storm, these are the times that we have to be able to trust people. And again, often that goes against our very instincts. Sometimes when we look back, we might come to see, hindsight 2020, we might come to see things in a little more clearer light. And when we see those things in a clearer light, we might be able to recognize that these people we were afraid to trust had our backs the whole time. And so, how wonderful it would be if we would skip the suffering and be able to look back and know who we can trust. Now, I'm not saying that we will never be betrayed. There are genuine fears. But the one person, the one entity we can always know will never betray us is God. Now, sometimes we will have difficulty discerning His will. We might blame Him for things that He is not responsible for. We might be looking for someone to blame for things that are beyond our control. And so when something is beyond our control, it's human nature to want to have an adversary, someone to be able to pin the blame on. And many times that comes in the form of blaming God. When we lose a loved one, we have this tendency that, well, God took them from me. And that really can skew our relationship with God. And so, in order to be able to trust God again, we have to be able to recognize the moments when God's will is being acted upon and when it is not. The Bible study that I am doing, I thought, I've been debating which Bible study to do for, every day for the last 3 weeks. And at one point it was one that was going to tie into the devotionals. Well, we might look at that, a little bit just to kind of understand some things. Then I looked at one that tied in with my sermon series I'm doing with Les Miserables. And then as I was getting more in depth planning the sermon series, I saw that there's a few moments where I'm going to differentiate vastly from where the Bible study goes, because there are some things that I don't like the way he goes. The one that I'm ultimately kind of gearing towards, and again, this is just one that I'm picking and choosing. That's the advantage of not having a book. I can do what I want. Is looking at trying to discern God's will and seeing sometimes how the things that we might be angry with God for aren't something that really we should be blaming Him for. I'll discuss that at a later time. But keep in our hearts and minds that He has never, is not, and will never betray us. And that's the kind of trust we really need to hold into our hearts. That despite what's going on in our life, despite any disagreements we have with friends or family, that He is always looking out for us. 100% of the time. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 365 or 6 days a year. He's always looking out for us. So, that's all I have. Oh, wait, the prayer. The prayer from the end of the chapter. Lord, help me to trust that you love me, that you will not let go of me, and that you have prepared a place for me to be with you in your eternal kingdom when my earthly life is over. Amen. That's all I have for today. If you wish to participate in the Bible study and did not receive an email from me, please shoot me an email and I will reply to it with the Zoom link. And that Zoom link is good for all 6 or 7, depending on what we cover, all days of the Bible study. And again, I'm picking and choosing, so we're going to be bouncing around with different various studies, depending on what I feel like discussing that day. But so that's tonight at 7 p.m. Tuesdays at 7 p.m. at least during Lent. And so again, send me an email if you haven't gotten the link, and we'll go from there. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day and enjoy the blistering heat wave. But remember, it's still too cold for shorts, even if it feels like it. So have a good day, everybody.